Folks, make sure I'm sufficiently caffeinated that I can talk. I've been running around on the road for a bit, and so this is the first one of these that I've done in a little while. I will try to be more regular in putting them out going forward. I want to catch you guys up on a grab bag of things that are going on around the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You have heard me say, and a bunch of other people that are involved with the Patriot movement in Pennsylvania say, that look, that where we are in this whole fight is it is time for you to stop asking the establishment to do something for you, and it is time for you to put your hands on the controls, to become part of the system. And by that, I do not mean selling out. I don't mean becoming like them. I just mean it is time to stop going to your state rep who has ignored you, blown smoke in your face for years. It's time to stop going to him or her and saying, please, sir, please, ma'am, if it's not too much trouble, could you do your job and help me? You got your answer, whether you understood it or not. They told you to drop dead. So it is time for you to throw that individual out of office and replace them with someone who will do what you want. That's how the system's supposed to work. And I'm using a state rep as an example, but we're really talking from the ground up, right? Starting at school boards to county level, your county GOP committees, your county commissioners, to your state reps, to your state senators, to your congressmen, etc. It's time to stop asking. It's time to start telling. You got to get out of the mode of sitting at home posting memes or going to a meeting of your Patriot group and talking to the same 30 people once a month where you all complain and then you go home. It's time to get organized, identify candidates, build campaigns, and start replacing these people. And you don't have to go run for U.S. Senator and come up with $25 million. You can run for school board on a shoestring and get elected most places with a few hundred votes. You don't have to run yourself. You can go door knock. You can show up at events. You can put together newsletters. You can do a million things that, figure out what's right in front of you. What's your opportunity to get involved? What you can't do, if you really actually want to change anything, is just stay stuck in the mode of doing nothing but talking to other people that already agree with you, or complaining, or sitting home just staring at the television and basically bitching about the problem. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to get involved. You got to do things. Now, we've been preaching this all over the state. This isn't some genius idea Sam came up with, right? All across the state. There's a lot of people figured this out. Well, there are actually a lot of candidates at every level now coming out of the Patriot movement, the America First movement, whatever you want to call it, and running for office. People who have stepped up and are doing things. I'm going to tick off some that come to mind. But these are examples, and if you're looking on the Facebook page for the coalition or at Unite PA, you're going to see we're posting information on these kinds of efforts all of the time. Contact information is there. The website information is there. Information on events is there. Brian Cutler. Brian Cutler is the chief scumbag, the head swamp creature in Harrisburg on the Republican side. Okay. His district is centered on Quarryville. In a previous let me stop people from pinging me here for a second. And I think in a previous transmission, I said Quakertown. That's a reflection of the fact that it's a big state and there are too many things rattling around in my head. Quarryville, Brian Cutler. Brian with a Y, by the way. Brian Cutler, head scumbag, head swamp creature, the creature from the Black Lagoon. This is Brian. Dave Nisley has a campaign going to primary him. Nisley is rock solid, really, really impressive candidate with a really, really, really impressive effort. If Cutler goes down, this is the shot heard around the world, folks. This is the top Republican in the House and the guy who's been at the heart of every time we've been sold down the river. Brian is the architect of that. He's the guy that gave us mail-in voting. He's the guy that gave the House to the Dems. I could go on forever. If nothing else happens in the state of Pennsylvania but Brian Cutler gets defeated, that changes the whole world, and I'm not exaggerating. That nobody in Harrisburg will be the same the day after that happens, because it will be the ultimate example that, these folks in the Patriot movement, they're not just complaining anymore. They're flexing their muscles. And you better friggin' listen to them, or you're going to be next on the list. Dave Nisley is the guy running against him. I've met him, talked to him, in contact with him. Get behind this campaign. Okay? If you're anywhere within driving distance, get in contact with the campaign, volunteer, go down, knock some doors, help them out, make yourself available. Next on the list, Mr. Mehaffey, or how the heck you pronounce his name, up in Hershey. This guy, this alleged Republican, is the guy who sided with the Dems to lock out the legislature until the Democrats officially had a majority and could then block every Republican initiative. This guy sold out straight up to the Democratic Party. When we went down to protest this about a year ago or so, this is the guy who called the Teamsters to send a whole bunch of young guys out on the street to intimidate the Patriot protesters. So, and I was physically there, so I can tell you I saw with my own eyes what happened. You got a bunch of peaceful protesters, most of whom are middle-aged women, out in front of this guy's office. And the next thing, and we all of a sudden, we got 50, 25, 30-year-old guys from the Teamsters, wearing their Teamsters regalia, by the way. They also brought along a Teamsters truck, a semi with Teamsters colors on it, to shout down and intimidate and try to drive away peaceful protesters, peaceful American citizens exercising their constitutional rights. That's what this alleged Republican did in response to conservative opposition to his actions. He whistled up the Teamsters, who began to yell all sorts of off-color remarks, do everything they could to intimidate this group, again, largely ladies, into leaving. To their credit, not a single one of those women walked away. Not a single one of the conservative people walked away. They stood their ground. It was the Teamsters. Teamsters left. A guy named Bobby Jeffries down in Hershey right now. Really rock solid dude. Running a campaign against Mehaffey to bounce him out on his butt. You're anywhere near Hershey, get behind Jeffries. Mehaffey has to go. He is a reprehensible individual who runs as a Republican, I guess, because some consultant told him, in your district, that'll help your chances of getting elected. Not a single blessed thing this guy does in office has anything to do with conservative values or the Republican platform or anything. This is a Democrat, a liberal Democrat who pretends to be a Republican, and he needs to go. Up in Luzerne County, let me focus on a couple of candidates we've got running in the interest of time. Jamie Walsh running in Luzerne County, Pat Musto running in Luzerne County, both of these for state house offices. Again, this information is posted on the Facebook page all the time. Both of these individuals, really, really strong conservative patriot candidates, smart, articulate, substantive, not just somebody who got angry one day and joined the campaign. These are guys to get behind, okay? Shifting gears a little bit. You'll also see on the Facebook page information about an upcoming event to support the Amish farmer Amos Miller, who's being basically persecuted because he because he won't sell out, I guess, to big business, because he actually wants to provide quality food to individuals in his locale. So they're trying to destroy Amos. I would strongly encourage you to get behind that. Understand that this theme here, where if you stick your head up, they come to destroy you, this is real. It is happening. You're not imagining it. Heather Honey is part of the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition, does incredible substantive research on election integrity related issues. I mean, she's a walking encyclopedia. This is not a, I heard something on the internet lady. This is a lady who's researched substantively all of these things and has chapter and verse on the problems with the election system, the threats to electoral integrity. Heather is now being targeted. There was a hit piece on her online by a supposed journal attacking everything, just baldly accusing her of fabricating information. None of that is true. What's the problem? The problem is she's telling the truth. That's the problem. So she's got to be destroyed, okay? You can sit home or you can fight back. You can just sort of sit home and complain, or you can grab a hold of something in your local area. Last thing I'm going to say, and I'll talk about this more in the future, is if you do nothing else, get involved in your schools. This whole push of transgender ideology is massive. It is across the board. It is in every school in the state. If you're sitting in some rural county like I am and you think this is just a problem down in Philly, I'm sorry, you're asleep. And it is not subtle, and it is not accidental. The ideology is it is very blatant, it is very direct, and there are demands for conformity. So, gendered pronouns, he and her, his, etc., are being removed from, they're being stricken from our language. It is being decreed all day, every day, I'm not making this up, that you can no longer use those terms because the gender as you know it is being erased. And things like the fact that there are 64 genders, and no, I cannot tell you what they are, now actually formally being written into curriculum, and it will be required that teachers and students adhere to this, acknowledge it, use this terminology, and there will be consequences if you don't use that. Just this morning, I was reading an article out of Washington State where in the Seattle school district system, you are now, the formal curriculum tells you that an emphasis on reading and writing and written language is prima facie evidence of white supremacy. If you are pushing the need to be able to communicate effectively in writing and adhere to grammar rules and so forth, you are racist. My point here that you need to absorb, again, we'll talk about this more in the future, is this is no longer something that somebody believes or that some people are talking about or is sort of being informally pushed and becoming the way people act in the educational system. We are way past that. All of this stuff is being written into curriculum and rules and guidelines, and if you do not conform, if you will face consequences. Those consequences are you lose your job, you are disciplined. This is straight out of a Marxist playbook, folks. This is the new revolutionary language and ideology and vocabulary. And you will be required, are being required, to conform or you lose your job. We are already at the point where, for instance, in the Department of Homeland Security, if you detain someone at the border and then write up a report on that because they're a potential terrorist or so forth, it is required that you not use any gendered language in the report. So if I detained Joe at the border and then released him, but there were all sorts of indicators that he was a terrorist or somebody we should be interested in, that law enforcement report will no longer tell you that Joe, or whatever his name is, could be from anywhere in the world, will no longer even explain to you that Joe is male or female. That's not like you could write it that way. It would be okay if you wrote it that way. Some people are writing it that way. That is now formal policy and a requirement. Within big chunks of the federal government, when you write personnel evaluation reports, you can no longer use he or she or his or hers. Not like some people don't use those terms. It is formally required that you do not, and if you write the report using those terms, which in other words suggesting that there are two genders, male and female, it will be sent back to you to be rewritten, and if you don't rewrite it, you're going to face disciplinary action. We're no longer talking about a few crazy people pushing an ideology or the ideology having infiltrated and spread. We're talking about being at the point where this ideology is now doctrine. It is now in control of the system. I was reading another article this morning about a new charter school being stood up. I can't recall the state right now, but the charter school will expressly be a transgender charter school to push transgender ideology to kids as young as like 8 or 9 years old. That's where we are. We'll go into more depth on that later. Here's the bottom line, people. You can't sit home. You can't stay on the couch. You got to turn off the game. You got to put down the Cheetos. You got to stop just talking to the handful of people who already think like you. And you need to go do something. Whatever the heck that is. And it doesn't have to be you personally winning the war, but everybody's got to engage. Get up. Run for school board. Help somebody run for school board. Show up at your county council meetings. Show up at your GOP committee meetings. Most GOP committees in this state have a huge number of open seats, by the way. Even without being elected, you can just sort of submit your name, and if they accept you, you'll be on the committee. And instead of being on the outside looking in, you'll be sitting there at the table and participating in the debate. You got to get involved. Get off the couch. All right? We'll talk to you.